Religious liberty attorney Asma Uddin has been a leader in fighting for the protection of religious expression for all religions in the United States. She's worked on a wide variety of religious liberty cases. She's also the author of The Politics of Vulnerability: How to Heal Muslim-Christian Relations in a Post-Christian America, a book where she describes her involvement on the team that helped win the Hobby Lobby case at the Supreme Court, among others. Asma, it's great to have you here with us. Religious garb rules are nothing new. You've seen this in the international space. Can you tell us where they come from?
Well, I think in the United States, you can trace their origins to the sort of virulent anti-Catholic animus of the 19th century, where religious garb was targeted specifically in the public school context because they wanted to, the opponents here wanted to keep nuns out of public schools, the fear being the influence on impressionable young minds and the idea that somehow if teachers were wearing religious garb, that it would be a form of proselytizing. And so we had anti-religious garb statutes across the United States for a while. All of them except one have been repealed. Pennsylvania still has one on the books. And of course, today it's not nuns who are impacted, but people of other faiths, such as Sikh men who wear turbans and Muslim women who wear hijabs as public school teachers. Those are the ones who are impacted by these anti-religious garb statutes.
And these articles of faith that you're talking about, both the turban or the nun wearing her habit or the priest wearing his collar, this is something, like you said, that affects people of all faiths. Why is this so problematic in general from the perspective of our pluralistic American society?
Well, as you said, it affects just a wide variety of different religious believers. It comes in different forms, right? So we tend to often think in the public discourse that when we're talking about religious garb, we're talking about discrete minorities, such as, again, women in scarves or men in turbans. But in fact, almost all religions have some form of religious garb or religious symbolism that they wear as a sign of sort of their expression of their faith or their expression of their devotion, in some cases an obligation in their faith. And so understanding sort of the wide impact here, the wide applicability is really key in understanding why bans on religious garb would be so problematic.
Let's talk about then the protections for religious clothing that are particularly important for students and teachers in the classroom. Why does that matter so much in the educational setting?
I think there's a couple of reasons. I think one is just an important issue society-wide and in public spaces, particularly where the government is in control. But when it comes to schools, unless you're being homeschooled or going to private school, you have to be in school. And so it's a space that you're required to be in by law, and to have to leave your religion outside of that space, a space where you spend most of your day. And then also a space where many young Americans are spending most of their time and also being shaped by what is happening in that space. And so for the religious believer, for one, it's like you can't really leave your religion or religious expression at home for most of the day and from a place that you're, again, required to be in. And for Americans of all faiths and none, it's a space where if the pluralism isn't reflected there, that's deeply problematic.
Absolutely. What about the trend internationally in in sports in general, and how that's bleeding into the discussion in school sports now? FIFA had a problem with young women who were wearing headscarves when they were playing. Is this also something that the U.S. is trying to buck or kind of guard against, a trend that could be coming into America?
Well, as your opening statement made clear, there are some really hopeful trends in terms of resisting the ban on religious garbs in sports, and the fact that there is more attention being paid to the question of inclusion. And again, just like the public school setting, sports is also a space where many people want to engage in for many different reasons, and to have to bar people of religious faiths because of their garb raises serious questions. And I think it's also some of the rationales that are kind of put forth by those who ban these various religious symbols is that it poses some sort of safety concern, or something that might be problematic just in terms of like a physical effect in the context of the sport. And I think everyone should understand that while diversity is protected, these things can be protected with an eye toward doing it in a way that still ensures safety.
Asma, one last question for you. You're a mom too. Is the modesty issue associated with sports and religious wear in sports something that's attractive for you as well, knowing that you can put your child in a school sports situation that's not going to violate the way that you want them to view themselves in public?
Well, Montse, I mean, before I even talk about my kids, I can just think back to when I was in school and I was in my physical education classes and we had a required uniform that required us to wear shorts. And as a practicing American Muslim, I actually have to cover, essentially down to my ankles. And so that was something where I had to get an accommodation. And I think one of the points of the people who are kind of pushing for this sort of inclusion in sports is to say that why is it that we have to do this sort of piecemeal? Why can't it just be understood that this is an essential part of the way that people express and live out their religion? The modesty is going to be a part of it. And so it shouldn't really be a case by case scenario, but sort of a wide accommodation for people who are coming and have respect for modesty for a variety of reasons.
Absolutely. Protections that are proactive. Thank you so much, Asma.
Thank you.